Everyone should be a single parent. I'm a double single parent. You become really effective. It helps us to be able to find and reinforce a closeness.
What are some of the biggest lies people say about single parenting?
Let me shatter this table a little. For single mothers, it's not true that you don't have a chance at love and romance once you're a mother. People make it sound like, oh, okay, you're used goods, you're a second-hand citizen, and it's simply not true. Why are you portraying yourself as a helpless person? You know, that you have a baby does not mean you don't have anything else. And I start having these talks with women, and they tell me, look, I've lived with this man for 7 years and we're roommates. And I'm like, I don't understand, so why are you there? And they say, oh, I'm there because of the children, because I don't want to be a single mother. I'm like, newsflash. there's no difference between what you're doing and what I'm doing. I don't have anybody stressing my life. I don't have anybody that I have to beg to eat food that you did not provide for. Monkey see, monkey do. Okay, children are notorious for doing what they see. And this shows up many years later.
As a single parent, how do you ensure you do not transfer the aggression on your child and your child does not partake in that frustration?
One of the first things I had to think about is the African proverb that says, when two elephants fight, the grass gets hurt.
Yeah.
And I had to tell myself that my child is not grass. You need to be able to know that your child isn't his father and your child isn't you either. You know, in there somewhere, your child shares 50% of genetic material on both sides. You know, and just be able to give your child the gift of seeing them as who they really are. At a point, we had to go to social welfare because I didn't have access to my child. This is Africa. If you have a divorce or something, traditionally the child goes with the father.
What can you say a child, either a boy or a girl, will miss the most about an absent father?
My daughter in particular has lost a whole lot by not having a father. A father is a source of strength. When there's no father, there's no sense of a first meal. And the first meal is even also your first love. I see women who want to do this and want to tell their kids, whether they say it in those words or not, they want to do the whole, oh, men are scum and all of that. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't poison your child's mind against an entire gender because you had a problem with one or you had a problem with 20. It's also why I think that the LGBT agenda is on the rise. And I keep telling people I don't know how you don't see it. But if I have already been conditioned not to see men as positives and I'm a girl, I'm going to get to those years that I'm looking for my love interest to be a female. My daughter doesn't know her father, even though he's alive and lives somewhere in the world right now, but she doesn't know him. He's been in no contact. If you ask me, what do I think that people really need for parenting? I'll tell you it's one thing, staying power.
Staying
power. Wow. And believe me, that is missing in a lot of these stories. Whether you're with a person or you're not with a person, a child can tell when there was staying power. There are people that should be banned from the door of parenting. No apologies. If you're sexually abusing your child, for me, it is a sign of insanity. It can't be anything else. It's one of two things. It's medical insanity or it's demonic insanity, but it's insanity. Learn to say no to the good so that you can say yes to the best.
How do you satisfy your emotional and sexual needs? So many of you who are watching haven't subscribed to the Yellow Mic podcast yet. Have I told you that subscription is free? Absolutely free. You don't have to pay a dime. Thank you. Let's get back to the episode. Pyemwa Samanta Deshi, you're welcome to the Yellow Mic.
Thank you very much.
You're someone that has put so much thought into parenting, especially single parenting.
Yeah.
Yes. Just give me a rundown. At what point did you discover or realize that you're going to be raising your children by yourself, alone?
Alone, yeah. Okay, so let's see. I wasn't always a single parent.
Right.
I started life having my first son after getting married. It was I call it a turbulent marriage.
It's important you mention after getting married.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that's story one. You know, I'm a double parent. I have a boy and I have a girl. So with my son was born within a marriage, right? And we were eventually married for 5 years.
5 years.
Yes, I think at the 5-year mark, everything disintegrated, you know. But I think somewhere within the marriage, it was like I said, it was quite turbulent. We weren't getting along well and all of that. And I think I became a single mother while I was married. You know, yes, I do think, and I tell people, a lot of people are actually single parents in a marriage.
Wow.
Because if you guys are not a team and there are two people living together and you're doing everything, then you're both single. You're actually both single. You're just a different kind of single, right?
Yeah.
Basically, what your child gets to have in that kind of thing is a physical proximity to both parents. But if there's no emotional proximity either, and people are not co-parenting, then it's as good as you're being single. I always do this, and I always give the kudos to my ex. He wasn't an uninvolved parent.
Right.
We just didn't see parenting the same way. He was more traditional than I was, you know, when it comes to parenting and to gender roles and to how a family should be run and stuff like that. And by virtue of my background and my upbringing, I was more, I was more liberal. So while we were together,
liberal?
I would think so. Well, different. I think the word is unconventional, right? I wasn't your conventional African parent.
Right.
So I think from the very beginning we had that going on. But somewhere in there, towards the fifth year of the marriage, I think, because we had our own bad times. But around the 5th year, it looks like we were settling and we were doing things together.
Right.
And then everything now went down under, you know. So I think that the first time it occurred to me that I was going to have a very one-on-one with my son was when the separation was happening. It was when my son started having questions.
How old was he?
He was 4, I think, or he was... Okay, so we had our 5th wedding anniversary in June. We probably started having problems in September, thereabouts. Okay. Okay. I've forgotten. But I think he was around 4 getting on 5.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, because I was one of those people that had a child like 9 months immediately after I got married, you know. So shout out to all the African mothers that now say when you're getting married, they say, oh, okay, 9 months time. So I was one of those 9 months time cases, right? So I had my son like immediately after. So he grew with the marriage. So this is like at the 5th year, somewhere in the 5th year of marriage, which is near the 5th year of his life. And he started noticing things like, and he had questions. Why wasn't Daddy staying here any longer? You know, what was going on and all of that. And I started realizing that quite early that I was going to need to talk with this young man and I was going to need to navigate this experience because this wasn't life for him as he started. Fast forward to 9-10 years later, I would have another child, which would be my daughter. I'm out of the marriage at this point, and then she came from a different relationship. And I mean, in her case, she was always the child of a single parent. So at what moment did I know I was going to be a single parent version 2? From the moment I realized I was pregnant for her, and I knew that in my heart I was going to keep the baby.
You were going to keep the baby. You mentioned something, being liberal and unconventional, and then you knew you were going to keep the baby.
Yeah. Okay.
When I hear the word liberal, often at times, from my American glasses now, it's easy for you to get an abortion and just deal with that.
Yes.
At this point, you are not a new parent. You're someone who knows what parenting is.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to keep the child?
The baby. Okay, yeah. So I don't think liberal means what people think liberal means, right? I think for me, liberal just means that your viewpoints are more they're more open, and you're subjecting everything to thought.
Right. Right.
And so for me, conservative means people who are like, okay, there's a beaten path.
Yeah.
We're going to take the beaten path. At least, so when I say liberal and conservative, that's what I mean.
Right.
I like to think I'm somewhere in between. Like, for instance, I grew up in an evangelical church. I go to a Pentecostal church now. And my elder brother will say, no, you're not Pentecostal, you're Penti-evangelical. so maybe I'm liberal conservative or something, whatever. But I knew when I was about 13 weeks gone and I realized I was pregnant. I was still pregnant. There's an entire story there. I knew I was going to have her. Right. I knew at 13 weeks, if a child had been in me and had gone through the whole first trimester, I couldn't see the fetus as anything other than being a child.
Right.
And I felt, why would she doesn't have a choice in who her parents are. She has no choice in her circumstances. But she's here, she's here. This is her existence as she's known it from, her consciousness. And that's because I do believe that a fetus, I believe that a fetus is life and is already a being. And I remember moving from shock and just wondering how I was going to handle all of it to being really happy, being excited. I had had a baby last 10 years before then. Life was different. My circumstances were different. I wasn't in a marriage any longer, but so I wouldn't say things were worse. I would say that things were, in a way, some things were better. Now I was working. I had a salary. Now there was the internet. I could shop for this new baby anywhere.
Yeah.
Now I didn't have to go through pregnancy blindly because first pregnancy was early 2000s. This is before cell phones in Jos, at least, But now I had the internet. I had the internet telling me I could subscribe to emails. I had baby emails telling me, oh, your baby is the size of a grapefruit, your baby is the size of an orange, So I think that in a sense, the second pregnancy was more exciting.
Right.
It was, there was so much to do, so much to look forward to,
There was experience too.
There was experience, which, there was experience, but there was also novelty. Right. Experience in the sense of, yes, I'd done this before, I had a baby before, but novelty because it had been 10 years. So my doctor wouldn't even let me go into labor. Yes, because it'd been too long from one baby to the other. So he said, look, we're going to have an elective CS. And I said, sure. I was good with that because things happen, things get back to where they're supposed to go back to and all of that. So I didn't have reproductive advantage, so to speak. And, but I think other than that, I was just really excited. I was excited to be a mother again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me, what shocked you the most
about
single parenting?
When I think about it, single parenting is all I know.
Right.
Yeah. When I think about it, I had only 4 years as a mixed parent. So if you ask me what shocked me, I don't think I have a basis for comparison in that sense. But I think it can be incredibly peaceful. Yeah, people think that single parenting is, you're going to sit down and you're thinking every minute and you're like, woe is me, there's no man in the picture. Not necessarily. Right. Had I been a widow, maybe that would have been my experience. But I think for me, in between the two babies, I had also learned a lot of independence. I had learned to organize my life and all of that. And the way I saw it was, this was one more thing to organize. This was one more thing to fit into the general sphere of what it was. I also knew that nobody raises a child alone. I was also very aware that child upbringing is a community thing.
Right.
So I had a community. My father was alive then, and my mom is still alive. And my father wanted to have the child for most of the time, and I had to fight my parents because they wanted to raise the baby They wanted that in a double parent home, and I was like, no, we're going to get to a consensus. So she would spend the holidays with my parents. She would be with me during the term and all that. Like I said, I'm a double single parent, so every experience is different. But I think when you ask me what shocks me about single parenting is the fact that people don't know the positives as much as they know the negatives.
Wow.
And for me, it was a positive experience.
Wow.
Yes.
What are those positives? I know you mentioned it's more peaceful.
It's more
than
peaceful.
You thought.
It's more. I think that children shouldn't have to live with perpetual conflict.
Right.
I really think that no child benefits from seeing two parents fight all the time, or seeing that there's a woman who is exceptionally afraid of her husband, or there's a man who walks around eggshells when it's his wife, and all of that. So yes, peace was for me one of the things.
Yeah.
Secondly, because I had an income, I'd never been a broke single parent. It's not a story I can identify with. I tell people that I don't think about it as single parenting. I think about it as solo parenting.
Okay.
The reason being that I can't believe that in my lifetime I've seen that word become something else in the, like, they say single parent like it's a disadvantage. But I do think that there's something about agency. Agency meaning that that the decisions over your child lie on your table. You're never going to blame anybody for anything that is wrong.
Right.
So I tell people, even people that are in marriages, they reach out to me, they say, oh, this is going on. Shouldn't the father be the one handling this? Or shouldn't the mother be the one handling this? I have to be the one bathing the children. Why is their mother not doing this? Or the person says, oh, isn't the father supposed to be for discipline? I told him that child did X, Y, Z and they didn't. And I tell everybody, look, everyone should be a single parent. If there's a need, meet it. So that's something single parenting does to you. You become really effective. If my child is supposed to go and get enrolled in a school and I don't do it, the child is going to be there.
Yes.
I have to be the one that gets it done. The third thing I think about single parenting that many people, another plus is the intimacy factor with your children. Is that, at least for the way I did my parenting, my children are closer to me than probably if there had been a husband or a man in their lives. But I'm the only adult. I'm their first point of contact to adulthood. So I think that it helps us to be able to find and reinforce a closeness that we still enjoy till now. I could think about more things, but let's just do those three. Yeah.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying when you say everyone should be a single parent, you are saying that be a single parent, do those things as though you're doing it alone. I'm
saying take primary responsibility. Yes, I'm not saying go and divorce your spouse.
Right.
So that but yeah.
Before someone takes this literally.
Yes. I mean, we all know we live in a generation where things can be taken out of context and you hear yourself and you're like, but I didn't say that. So yes, I do think take responsibility. I think for me, parenting just means you're not waiting for somebody else to do it. You're just the one. If your child has a gap, for me, that's the easiest thing. If there's a gap, fill it. Okay, I wouldn't sit down and say, oh, my children are not going to eat food because their father didn't give them money. Or, oh, okay, since he didn't give money for meat, they're going to eat crayfish. I hear parents say that and I'm like, people, are we on the same page? If it needs to be done, if I brought children into the world, then it's an honor and it's a privilege to just know I can take care of them.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest lies you think people say about single parenting?
So biggest lies. Let me shatter this table a little.
Right.
For
Shake it.
Single mothers. I brought my axe to this.
Okay.
I think for single mothers, it's not true that you don't have a chance at love and romance once you're a mother. I think that people say that a lot. People make it sound like, oh, okay, you're used goods, you're a second-hand citizen, and it's simply not true.
Right.
Why do I think a lot of single mothers don't get a chance at, a chance and a choice? And I say that because it's important for single mothers to know you have a choice. I've seen people who say, oh, okay, yes, I'm in this horrible relationship, but I should be grateful. After all, I'm a single mother and he took me. And I'm like, sorry, that's a lot of crap. That you're a mother actually means that you have taken on one of the highest roles. In fact, your highest biological role in society, which is reproduction and nurturing. So what happens in a lot of these relationships that they make you feel like that is the economic factor. People aren't willing to meet bills. So people think that, okay, there are going to be bills then and all of that. But if you're a single mother who is doing life, who has a source of income, who is taking care of a family, who has all of that, chances are very high that, you're going to throw away suitors because you can also see that somebody wants to attach himself to you because they want the parenting thing that you carry, right? So I think that's one of the myths I hear. The myths that people say single mothers are used and forsaken, used goods and don't want to be wanted. I think that's a myth. Secondly, I think it's also this myth about single mothers being helpless. And I keep saying, why are you portraying yourself as a helpless person? That you have a baby does not mean you don't have anything else. We live in Jos. If you enter Terminus now and you see the number of women with their child on their back who are also providers, you would realize that something that every mother knows is that if you're not even a productive person, motherhood will move you towards being productive. If you have to do it right, because you don't want to be harassed. You don't want to have to be in the place that you have to beg for anything.
One thing I'm thinking is, I'm going back to when you said most people are single parents, even in marriage. Because what do you call a woman who is now the one providing? She's the one taking care of the family and the husband. And she gets beaten, she gets insulted. There's really nothing other than maybe sex coming from the husband.
When it comes.
Right? So what do you call that? It's...
Because you'd be surprised if you talk with women. So I used to be in this space where men would tell you, oh, okay, no, I've been living with my wife for 2 years and we're just roommates. And you're like, oh, okay, no, guy, you're saying that we know what you want. You just want sympathy sex, right? Then I grow older and I start having these talks with women. And they tell me, look, I've lived with this man for 7 years and we're roommates. And I'm like, I don't understand. So why are you there? And they say, oh, I'm there because of the children, because I don't want to be a single mother. I'm like, newsflash. There's no difference between what you're doing and what I'm doing. Probably there's a difference. The difference is that I'm more coordinated. I don't have anybody stressing my life. I don't have anybody that I have to beg to eat food that you did not provide for. I don't have anybody to when he enters the house, I'm crawling into my room. In my house, I'm the queen of my castle, right? So what's the difference between what you're doing and what I'm doing? So in those cases, but I've learned to tell people, look, we respect your decisions, as long as... The other thing I think I don't like is the judgment. It's the judgment that women like that give to the women who have left. Somebody had the courage to say her circumstances are not working and she would rather do this alone. And then you're being a martyr, a living martyr, are the one that is condemning the one that has gone. And I'm like, I can't take you guys living together if you're living together telling yourselves, two of you are like, okay, we have a difficult marriage, but we're going to work on it. That's a different story from we're living together because we're resigned to fate. Oh, no, this man is not going to change. He's always going to be a drunk. He's always going to sleep wherever he sleeps. He's going to sleep in the car outside. He's not going to enter the house. So I'm like, so what are you doing with him? You are a single parent. As far as I'm concerned, you just haven't accepted that you are. Unfortunately, in those times, you're passing the dysfunction to another generation.
Right.
Because you think you're doing this because you want your children to see a double parent home. You're not going to pass the structure to them. You're passing a function.
Yeah.
Children are, like I say, monkey do. Sorry, monkey see, monkey do. Okay, children are notorious for doing what they see.
Yeah.
And this shows up many years later. You think you've done a good job, you think they should clap for you, but honestly, all they saw was what you did. Okay, and that's what you're going to interpret. So yeah. Let me tell you a story. I do remember that when I had my daughter, you said I had experience behind, and I said not really. I remember that I thought I remembered everything about childbirth, and then one of those nights she couldn't sleep, and I did everything, and she couldn't sleep, and I hold her, and when I drop her, she wakes up, and then I hold her again, then I drop her, then she wakes up, and then we did this till morning. So by morning, I was physically exhausted. I hadn't slept all night. I was emotionally exhausted. I didn't know what was wrong with my child. I had spent a whole night just being afraid and everything. And I remember having one of those meltdowns. I laid on the bed. I started crying, started shaking my legs all over the place. I'm very dramatic when I cry. And I was crying, and my younger sister was there, and I said, I've forgotten how to be a mom. I've forgotten how to be a mom. And she was like, hey, take a deep breath, calm down, And then I called a friend, and I said, this was going on. And my friend said, oh, okay, I'm sorry to hear this was going on. Oh, you could have woken us up last night, And I was like, no, I didn't want to wake up anybody. So, I mean, emotional exhaustion means you're alone.
Yeah.
Honestly, you're really alone. I do know that there have been nights that I've slept, I haven't been able to sleep. So I sit on the floor of my room, just thinking about these children, praying for them, wondering if I'm doing it right. Because with parenting, you're never really sure you're doing it right. That's the other thing. You can only do your best, and you're not sure how your child will take your best. Okay, you're not sure how they would react to all the things that you're teaching them and you're doing for them. So I think emotional exhaustion looks like those times that there's nobody to talk to. There's nobody who looks at you and says, look, relax, this is going to be fine. In a double parent home, if a child isn't sleeping, if there's a father and a mother, the other person, picks up the child and just says, oh, okay, you deserve 1 hour of rest.
Right.
I'll be with this child for 1 hour. Emotional exhaustion means nobody does that with you. So it's that feeling of really being alone. It's the feeling of second guessing yourself. It's the feeling of all of that. I mean, there's a picture that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I was in secondary school, and one of my classmates, I think, had a disciplinary issue that they had to call her mother for. And they had to call their parents for, and she was the child of a single mom. And I remember seeing this woman as far away. I mean, secondary school, I never knew I was ever going to be a single mom. And I remember seeing her leaving school, and she looked really deeply exhausted. And I just remember looking at her and asking myself, and feeling it for her, because I knew that if I had the same misbehavior, my father and my mother would have been there. Right. There would have been somebody to rant to. My mother would rant to my father, or my father would rant to my mother, and they would share their feelings together. And then at the end of the day, they would encourage each other, right? But this woman didn't have that. And that turned out to be some of the few impressions I had about single motherhood before I became one. So maybe I was ready. I think when I got into single motherhood, I got in like I was entering the trenches.
Right.
Because I kind of knew that it was going to be that sort of journey, right? Yeah, but that's what emotional exhaustion looks like. It's just knowing that there's no one to talk to sometimes.
Yeah.
And what have I learned to do? Sometimes I talk to my friends or my family members when I have that, But other times, as a writer, I also just get to journal and pour it all out there, and pray. And like I said, sit on the floor some days and cry. And you wake up in the morning and you continue.
Right.
There are no breaks.
Right.
Yeah.
Talking about emotional exhaustion, I know it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
But right at the back of my mind, I'm thinking that when you have a divorce or breakup, separation from a spouse, uh, there's definitely some form of rage, anger, pain that must have led to that. I know it's different for everyone and they handle it differently.
Yeah.
So the question is, as a single parent, there's a lot of rage, anger coming from the breakup, the divorce. How do you ensure that as a single parent, you do not transfer that aggression on your child and your child does not partake in that frustration in a way that doesn't make it look like everything is okay, even though it's not okay?
So I think that a child is almost always a byproduct of a relationship, right? A nice loving relationship or one that wasn't so nice, whatever it is. But I think that nobody, whether it's a father or a mother, nobody really forgets how their child came to be. You know, we all remember that we have a child because there was another person in the picture. So I'm saying that to say that it's really difficult to divorce the emotions you feel towards the adult, okay, on the child. And it's never okay. Okay, so I know that I'm picking my words now and I'm trying to pick them as carefully as I can. So first there are two issues. There is you and your child, or there's a child, you know, you as a parent, then there's you as a partner or as a failed partner, whether you were married or you were not. Now, like I said, I'm a double single parent. So with my son, we got separated. We had lived together and then we got divorced. And it was messy. It was messy, it was bitter, it was acrid. There was all of that going on. You know, but I think for me, one of the first things I had to think about is the African proverb that says, when two elephants fight, the grass gets hurt.
Yeah.
And I had to tell myself that my child is not grass. To the degree that I can, I will keep my child out of harm's way. To the degree that I can. Now, that's not an absolute statement, because there are times that I couldn't. There's also the fact that one of the things that I do remember that at a point we had to go to social welfare because I didn't have access to my child. This is Africa.
Right.
If you have a divorce or something, traditionally the child goes with the father. Traditionally, you know, the Child Act in Nigeria has made it possible that right now the child by default under a certain age goes to the mother, except they can prove that the mother is an unfit parent.
Right.
So when I got divorced within the age where my child could be with me. Oh no, yeah, he was on the threshold. Now I'd be with either of us. And I do remember that we just had a lot of conflict happening around it. You know, at a point, my ex collected my son and I didn't have access to him for quite a while. And one of those days I had to go to social welfare. Okay, telling this story is not because you're making somebody look bad, but because the truth is there's no way to say it other than to just say it. And I remember going to social welfare and I was ranting. And one of the workers told me, she said, look, this is what we do. This is our work and we see this all the time. She said, normally, when there's a couple as young as you guys and there's a separation and the woman is in a place where she's empowered and this isn't going to hurt her so much, the next thing that her estranged partner usually goes on is the child. Okay, because it's a fight, everyone is looking for a vulnerable spot.
Yeah.
And she said, so you would need to learn to fight tactfully in a way that you leave your child out of this. And I never forgot that conversation.
Right.
You know, because I realized that There are times that if my ex does something, he's not trying to hit at my son. He's trying to hit at me. Okay? So I follow stories on social media. I see people saying, okay, I'm going to not give access to a child, to the child's father because of this. And people are like, oh, why are you doing that? And I'm like, no. If you don't know the inner stories, you may not understand why. The truth is, for instance, a mother could decide not to give a person full custody because maybe they're fighting a lot, or maybe she realizes that every time they fight, this child is in the line of attack. On the other hand, she might be doing it because that hurts her spouse. So what am I saying? Everyone needs to separate the war of the relationship from the nurture of your child. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard too. So you're going to need to do a lot of diplomacy. You might need legal backing, which is something I see people taking for granted. I'm one of those people who feels that if you've been physically separated for 2 years and you're not working on your marriage, please go and get a divorce and sort out your custody issues so that you can create structure. So I do think that divorces sometimes help you to create structure, around your life. And people don't see it that way. People say, oh, no.
What kind of structure, though?
The structure of where does your child stay?
Right.
Okay. So I get involved in a lot of these cases and I hear all kinds of stories. I see people stay separated for years running. I was separated for 6 years before I got a divorce. Not because we were making things up, but because we come from Plateau State where everybody is a Christian by default. And where everyone said, oh, it is shameful for you to seek a divorce.
Yeah.
Okay. And people said, no. And don't be the bad person. Don't be the person that seeks a divorce. And I'm like, hello, we're not together. As far as I'm concerned, the only thing keeping us is a name, right? So why am I saying that a divorce can help with structure? Because if you have a child and you're getting divorced, one of the first things you want to do with your lawyer and with everybody is to say, where does our child go to? So our experience in social welfare, for instance, is something that I considered really positive. There were a number of questions asked. Who is going to pay for the school fees of the child? Which hospital is your baby going to go to, your son going to go to when he's down? Have you people agreed about this? Who does his clothing? Who does this? Who does that? Eventually, these things helped us. Our son ended up finishing university at 21. Serving, getting a job at 22. And believe me, some of these things wouldn't have happened if we were actively in chaos.
Right.
But we got to the point that we decided, look, on these things we can talk about. We can talk about where is he going to secondary school. We can talk about where is he going to university. We decided when we said, oh, we're going to do a private university, we decided we're going to pay for it together. We were both enrolled on a platform. Everyone could go and pay, Believe me, if we were still doing active animosity, we can't do these things.
Yeah.
So I tell people, and like I said, everybody should be a single parent. So if you're being a single parent, you're not waiting for the other single parent to say, let's do this. It means that you have to be the one that puts the structures in place.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I've deviated of your question a little.
No. You're on course.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So, so there's that. That's one part, right? One part is that you want to take your child off the chaos of everything that is going on between you and this other adult. The second part is you need to be able to look at your child and not see your other partner, your partner. I need to be able to look at my son and not see him as, oh, you're a carbon copy of your father, even if he is. I need to be able to look at my daughter and not say, oh, no, you look like this person, you speak like this person, you have his mannerisms, therefore you have, that would now make you to project. Okay. Yeah. So one of the things I had to learn how to do was to look at my children and see the great things I wanted to see in them, whether they came from me or not. Okay, whether they came from me or not. I am by nature, being that I'm a creative, I'm a very disorganized person. My ex-husband was a very organized person. My son is very organized. when I see him handle his space, I don't say, "Oh, you're handling your space just like your father." I'm able to applaud him for being organized. Okay, but what has that done to me? It's helped me to see him as an individual. So I think that's the other thing that single parents do. You need to be able to know that your child isn't his father, and your child isn't you either. In there somewhere, your child shares 50% of genetic material on both sides, and just be able to give your child the gift of seeing them as who they really are.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's interesting you say that.
Yeah.
The original intention
Mm-hmm.
for God creating a family, because God created the institution of the family, is to have the father, the mother, the child
Yeah.
being raised together to serve the larger picture. This is the society.
Yeah.
And whatever we do in society, in society today, is an offshoot of what happened in our homes.
Yeah.
Right. Having said that, it is really now common knowledge that not all marriages are going to work.
Yes.
Not because they are not meant to work, but because two people cannot reason together. So they go their separate ways for the sake of peace and tranquility. Yeah. So in that context, right, as a single mother, from your experience, you're a writer. I've read some of your publications. And like I said something at the beginning, I love the intentionality that you put in. The way you speak with confidence, the research you back it up with, and all of that. From either an academic point of view or experience, what can you say a child, either a boy or a girl, will miss the most about an absent father, both emotionally and physically?
Okay. I think what do they miss the most? I think if any parent is away, and okay, let's start with what you said about having two parents, about that being the biblical design. I do agree that it's a biblical design, but I do think that from the very start, God has always made provision for loss.
Right.
Because we all forget that widows are single parents too.
Yeah.
And widowers are single parents too. So I don't think life operates from the idealistic. I think life operates from the realistic.
Wow.
Okay. So for instance, this is what I have told my children, and I do remember having a conversation with my daughter when she told me somebody was laughing at her because she didn't have a father. And I told her what every child needs is one adult in their corner.
Wow.
And
someone they can listen to.
Yeah, just one adult in your corner. For me, that's the minimum viable product. That's the minimum viable option for life. One person who is in your corner, one person who listens to you, who encourages you, who can chastise you, who can rebuke you, and all of that.
Yeah.
Not because God didn't make a mean for it to be two.
Yeah.
But in the event that the ideal doesn't work, that the default doesn't work, the options can work.
Right.
So
I love that thinking.
Yeah. I mean, when you've done this as long as I have, you find yourself thinking about all the sub conversations, right?
Right.
So what do I think that children miss from not having a father? I had an active father, so I feel like my children, my daughter in particular, has lost a whole lot by not having a father. A father is a source of strength,
Wow.
I don't know. Even growing up, I can't remember us looking at our mother like the hero of our story. The person who was larger than life was a father. I still have a bias for bearded men because I remember how my father's cheek used to feel
Right.
And I had a thing for how rough and how prickly his skin would feel.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't like I'm not saying I like everybody that is bearded is
Yeah.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
I like
I mean, it's a
bald men.
bias.
It's a bias. I like bald men because my father was bald.
Huh.
Yes.
This is the first time I'm hearing
Are you
that.
serious?
Yes.
So it's and this goes across my sisters. We all think that bald men really look good. So I think that the first thing that is missing when there's no father is there's no sense of a first meal.
Hmm.
And the first meal is even also your first love.
Wow.
My mother told me I used to call her Kishiana when I was small. Because as far as I was concerned, I was my father's other wife. When there's no father, the child is your daughter in particular is going to lose having a first love. She's going to lose having the first man that she looks at and she looks at him like he hung the stars in the sky. That's a relationship that she might never get replicated. Maybe not until she finds a spouse. And even then the dynamics are different. But I think that fathers end up being the first role models. The other thing I talked about, and I think I talked about it on one of my videos recently, is how in the divine sense of things, I'm going to just use the microphone. You want to feel covered, right?
Right.
You want to feel like there's somebody here and there's somebody here. When there's one parent, there's exposure. There isn't the sense of completeness that you get from being the person in the middle that is being covered by both. So whether it's a missing mom or it's a missing father, once there's one person, just remember that there will be a sense of exposure.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is if there's a living parent who isn't in the child's story, the other thing the person creates is a lot of questions, a lot of uncertainty for the child.
Right.
There's something that never gets completed. The child is always going to wonder what life would have been like if both of you were there. I mean, even when the parent is late, there's always just going to be a sense of imagination. What if this other person was here and all of that? And I think that fathers do a lot more than that. I think fathers also have the opportunity to be the fun parent. Especially if they do less of the parenting, like the day-to-day. I mean, I can be the strict person. One of the things that being a single mother means for me is that I have to both be fun and be authoritarian. But when you have two parents, you can always do good cop, bad cop, and they can always change roles, right? But
Yeah.
but in my case, I'm just the cop. I have to be both good and bad. So I think that even when fathers are authoritarian, there's just something about father's love that I keep telling people that in life you don't even need a father's love 24/7. You just need it to be there. I can buy biscuits for a child and it's a mommy thing. When daddy does it, it's an amazing thing.
Right.
Why? Because like I said, they're just larger than life. Fathers have this advantage of just being like God. They're the first times you see God.
Right.
And
The representation.
Yeah. So there's a lot lost when there's no father.
Right.
So for me, again, it's talking about, because I've also raised my children to think about not what is not there, but what is there. It's not about what you lack. It's about what do we have, and so we've been able to also lean into other role models, other male role models. The grandfather, my big brother who is an uncle, pastor, just people that they can look up to, that they can feel that sense of adoration, and that give them that sense of security. It may not cover completely, but it's still a cover. It reduces the amount of exposure that they feel.
Yeah, because I was about to ask you, how then do you compensate for that?
Yeah.
But I think you...
I have already done that.
Yeah,
Yes.
you did.
Yes.
Yeah. So you are affirming that if you can, you can find other male figures, like people who are respected, people who could protect them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
Maybe the
pastor,
word is not even respected as much as people who have the heart.
the heart. Right.
I think it's more a heart thing than anything else. So in my, there's something my pastor does. Shout out to Pastor Duncan of Covenant World Christian Center International.
Right.
Let me just drop that there. In those, I don't know about now because I don't have any babies now. But when the children were small, pastor always had candy in his pocket, and they would run off after service, and he'll take out a candy and give them. And that candy just makes more sense than the one I bought. It came from pastor. So those are, it's the 2 minutes, it's the 1 minute that he says, hey, buddy, you've grown. And you can see the sense of, oh, I've grown. It's my elder brother being the one who plays football with the boys, with my boy. My brother is a gardener, runs an active garden. Or even the fact that he tells me, oh, okay, send your daughter over. She's going to go to the farm with me. And all those are not things that he's doing because it's a different kind of love. They get to hang around, they get to absorb that atmosphere of being around him. I'm lucky that in between my two children is almost a 10-year age gap. So my daughter also gets to have a big brother. Who is bigger than her, who is almost like a young uncle.
Yes.
And that gives her somebody to tax.
Yeah.
And the person who she says, oh, okay, you're going to buy this for me and you're going to buy that for her. And those things have made a difference in her life. It's reduced. So what would I say? It has reduced the amount of space. But believe me, one of the things I'm still very aware of is that even for her, who has a small space, there's still space. That in her perfect life, she'd like to get to meet her father and she'd like to get to have a relationship with him. Right. It is what it is, and I think that I see women who want to do this and want to tell their kids, whether they say it in those words or not, they want to do the whole, oh, men are scum and all of that. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't poison your child's mind against an entire gender because you had a problem with one. Right. Or you had a problem with 20. Right. You're going to make them lose all the good experiences. It's also why I think that the LGBT agenda is on the rise. And I keep telling people, I don't know how you don't see it. But if I have already been conditioned not to see men as positives, and I'm a girl, I'm going to get to those years that I'm looking for my love interest to be a female.
Yeah.
I also do that, so I tell people that when I'm raising children not to feel poisoned towards men, I'm also doing that for my own good.
Yeah.
It's also for my own good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about poisoning, right? A follow-up question to that would be, how do you tell your child about what happened between you and the father?
And not get poisoned.
And not get poisoned, not poisoning their mind. How did you do it in your case? Because earlier you were talking about having a conversation with your 4-year-old child. Yeah. I think he's too young, but then how did you do it?
Okay. Yeah. So you think that's young. Okay. So there are going to be people who will listen to your podcast and say, no, it's not true. She poisoned the minds of her children.
Right.
Yeah. That's another negative of being a single parent. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Okay. Everyone is going to think, no, there's no way you're not poisoning. So if you talk to your children, you're poisoning their minds. But people forget that children observe. I remember having a talk with someone who was raised by a single parent in a marriage, coming back to my term. And she told me that no matter how much her father tried to cover for her father's defects, she could see it. She knew exactly who was doing what. So people say that thing, oh, okay, I'll give my child money, then I'll tell my child to go and say thank you to daddy. You forget that the most perceptive beings on earth are children, because children learn by observation. So, but this is how I do conversations, because I do believe that I didn't poison my children's minds. I do believe that what I've had with them instead are honest discussions. So I keep talking about age-appropriate conversations. Okay? Now, the first time my son is 4 or 5, and he notices that he hasn't seen his father and his father is in town, and he says, Mommy, why isn't Daddy staying with us any longer? It's not time for me to say, shut up, you don't know anything about this, or to say, no, you saw Daddy. You just don't know that you saw him, because I'll be lying to my child, and therefore the child will be losing trust. So my answer in that situation will be something that acknowledges, yes, you haven't seen Daddy, but you'll see him later. He will come later to see you because he loves you.
Right.
Okay, immediately you're starting to establish there is something that is out of the norm,
Yes.
but it doesn't have anything to do with you. So over the years, I mean, we kept the conversations appropriate. There came a time that he said, what happened between you and Daddy? And all I said is, when you're old enough, you will know. There came a time he said, oh, I think, that was when my daughter was born. He said, oh, I think that, he said, somebody told me that you love Nina more than you love me because you gave her a very big birthday party and you didn't give me a big birthday party. And I said, no. And I said, you can't remember your third birthday because you were too young, and you also can't remember your other birthdays. And I do remember asking him, so between your aunties, between my sisters, who do you like more than the other? Or something like that. And he said, what kind of question is that, Mommy? And I said, the same kind of question you're asking me.
Right.
You know, and I said, it's the space in my heart for you that is as large as the space in my heart for her, even if it's a different kind of, space and all that. So for me, it's having conversations that are age appropriate. It's not throwing your child's questions away. If your child says, I am hurt because I haven't seen my father, it's not for you to say, oh, you're not supposed to be hurt at your father because the Bible says you should honor your father and your mother. That is gaslighting. You've gaslit your child. It's okay for you to say, I'm sorry it hurts you that much, but I'm sure that there will come a day that when you're having a conversation with Daddy, he will explain why he felt this way. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So you learn how to navigate these conversations. And this is the thing about children. If you've had one honest conversation with them, they'll come back the next time. If you haven't, they'll go away from you and they'll find their answers elsewhere. So, and then I tell people that eventually there is a threshold. I've been thinking about telling people that. I've been thinking about writing about that. There's a threshold where after that threshold, nobody can make excuses for you again. Your child reaches their own conclusions. And that's what you don't want to happen. So whether you're a single parent who doesn't get to live with a child all the time, or you're one of the ones, your child needs to see that you're an adult in their corner. Because on the day that they decide that you're not in their corner, they'll go away. And at that stage, there's nothing you can do. So I've heard many people being accused. I have been accused of, you're poisoning the minds of your children. Yeah. For instance, I mean, it's something I say honestly. My daughter doesn't know her father, even though he's alive and lives somewhere in the world right now, but she doesn't know him. He's been in no contact. And one of the things I told her, in fact, one of the last conversations we had, which was fairly recent, so it will be the first time I'm airing out this conversation to anybody, was I told her, I said, one of these days, you are a teenager now, you're doing well, you've grown into a beautiful young lady and all of that. I said, one of these days, you're going to be on social media, for instance, and somebody is going to sneak into your inbox and say, hi, I'm your father. I've never met you because your mother didn't want me to meet you. If that happens, what are you going to do about it? Would you be willing to meet your father? And she said, yes, I'll be willing. And I said, okay, I know you'll be willing, and that's fine. That's what I want you to do. I said, but when the day comes, this is what I would want from you. I would want you to come to me and say, this person is asking. I said, because I'm never going to be the mother that isn't going to let you meet your father. However, I'm an adult. And I gave her a story and I said, I have seen people that have gone to meet a parent.
Yeah.
And then it goes bad. Because the parent wasn't ever really a parent anyway. Didn't have what it takes for parenting. And if you ask me, what do I think that people really need for parenting? I'll tell you it's one thing, staying power.
Staying power.
Staying power. Wow. And believe me, that is missing. in a lot of these stories. Whether you're with the person or you're not with the person, a child can tell when there was staying power. And so I was like, look, I don't ever want it to be anybody's pastime. Okay? Because you took everything for me to nurture you to this point. So if your father ever reaches out to you as an individual, come to me and we will go together. So those are the talks that you have. Now, tomorrow, if this person comes to her and says, look, I want to meet you, she's going to tell him, I would like to meet you too, but I want you to meet your mother. Guess what's the next thing you're going to hear? Oh, she poisoned the mind of her daughter.
Right.
This is how those conversations happen. Because you're not poisoning minds. You're sitting down and you're saying, okay, look, I'm setting guidelines.
Yeah.
That's the kind of mother I am. People say I'm an intentional parent. And I'm like, yes, basically that's what it means to be intentional. What it means to be intentional is you're looking at all the possibilities and you're mitigating against them. And so I've looked at the possibilities. I'm like, no. Look, I don't think if this person is alive and breathing, there will be a day of curiosity that this person would want to reach out for you. And if he does, I want to be there for it.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to be an honest person and you want to reach out, common sense should tell you, reach out to the mother. Somebody has been doing this work all along. But if you go to reach out to her alone and this happens, then you can't sit down and say poisoning of mind.
Yes.
So I always tell people, look, first and foremost, with that poisoning thing, I want to examine the narrative. Am I saying people don't poison the minds of their children against other people? No. I'm not saying that. Okay? I'm saying that you need to be able to really judge on a case-by-case basis. Like every other thing about life, single parenting shouldn't be subject to overgeneralization. Yeah.
Wow. There are children whose fathers or mothers in some case are alive but are dead to them.
Yeah.
Right? I'll give you a context. One very cringe context is the case where a father is trying to sexually harass the child. Right? In such case, do you think there's ever any reason that the child has to meet the father again for anything whatsoever?
It depends on the age of the child. For me, the answer is a simple no.
Right.
When there's sexual abuse, when there's proven sexual abuse, I think you should keep your child away.
Completely.
Yeah.
I
mean, I believe in that Bible verse that says that if you're going to let a child astray, it's better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and drown. So whether it's whatever kind of abuse it is, if there is abuse, and you see, that's the other thing where I tell people, I believe in being a mother bear. Okay, I don't have any finesse when it comes to fighting for my children. Okay, maybe the word is not finesse, but I'm not going to.
No, a bear is God's creature.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold back if my child is in harm's way. I wouldn't. Okay, I told my daughter when she was going to secondary school, I said, go and tell anybody, because people were talking about grooming in secondary schools and they were like, oh, some teachers groom children.
Yeah.
I said, warn everybody, tell them your mother is a witch. Because I said, in this life, if you abuse my child and I find you, go and bring, who should you bring? Angel Gabriel. I will not forgive you. I will see that justice is executed.
Right.
Me, I will not. There are a few things that are absolute no's for me. If you put my child in harm's way, if you're doing anything that this child will become traumatized in future, that justice, we will drag ourselves till we get there. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to understand, not even parents, I'm trying to understand adults sexually abusing children. Not to talk of the one that is related to you by blood.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're sexually abusing your child, for me, it is a sign of insanity. It can't be anything else. It's one of two things. It's medical insanity or it's demonic insanity, but it's insanity. And I will see that the child stays away from you. Okay, and when the child is of age, I will tell the child the full story. That is not a story I'm going to hide. That's not a story that I'm going to say, oh, okay, now you're 18. Oh, no. Just go and meet your father. No. I will tell you, look, your father has had this. Do you want to meet him? Yes, you want to meet him. Fine. You will meet him in my presence.
Yes.
You will meet him in controlled circumstances. You will meet him in a restaurant. You'll have a meal with him and all of that. You will do all of that because I do hope that one of the things I establish is that we have trust in each other and that you know that I'm looking out for your own good. I will not accuse your parents. And I mean, like I said, it has to be proven, right? I told someone, I had a conversation with a friend who told me that the girlfriend he was supposed to marry, he couldn't marry her because she had a fetish. She had to sleep with older men. Yes, and he said she got it because she was the daughter of a single parent and a single mom, and then her mother married. And her father was sexually abusing her. He groomed her. That one story made me not to consider marriage proposals for a season.
Wow.
That one story. Because I couldn't just imagine anyone doing that to my own child. Right? Am I making any sense?
Yeah.
I just feel like there are circumstances. If you're brutal to my child, you have harmed my child physically, and I have seen it, I will fight that you don't have that child back. Because this is life we're talking about. You're talking about the fact that, and see, none of us has authority over life. I don't have authority over my children's lives. They are creatures that have been given to me to nurture, to care, to, in trust for a season.
Yes.
So if you're abusive, physically, or I see that, okay, every time my child is around you, you're draining my child of all the, you've become this really toxic person, planting toxic things in their head, and I'm aware of the extent of it, then no, just call me a poisoner, but but let's poison. When the child is 21, when they're 22, when they're fully grown, full adults, and they want to meet you, they'll do it on their own terms. But I do think that, yes, there are people that should be banned from the door of parenting. No apologies.
As you touched on it a little bit, but I wanted to go fully out now. When should a single parent remarry? At what are some of those red signals, right? That should alert you to say no or to say yes.
When should they remarry? When they meet someone who is right for them. I think it's as easy as that. So I think that the thing is have a checklist. Okay, some people are going to meet people that are right for them in 2 years. Some people are going to meet the person that is right for them in 20 years. Some people are never going to meet the person that is right for them. Okay, but I think have a checklist. First and foremost, once you've had a child, I think that you're more than considering somebody to be your spouse. You're also considering somebody to be a parent.
Yes.
So like I keep saying, it's important to look at the heart of the person. Is the person a large-hearted person or not? I've heard many people talk about, oh, no. They can't go and raise another person's child. And I keep telling them, I didn't ask you. If you can't raise another person's child, please find a door. I'm going to look for somebody that doesn't have a child. Okay? Personally, I have a sense of deep disdain, if I should call it that, for people whose hearts are not big enough to take other people's children, whether they're yours or not. That's why I don't understand women who bring in house helps into their house and treat them badly. I have deep disdain for anybody whose heart isn't big enough. So what do I think? I think that if you're a child, you're a parent, you do want to have your spouse being somebody who loves people.
Right.
Who loves children. Because you want to be, secondly, you really want to see that person isn't a sexual deviant. So when I tell people, honestly, if you're a single parent, it's okay for you to be a little bit of an FBI agent. I do expect that you've checked that one day you've carried this person's phone and you've checked their history, their browsing history. And if you see that this person is into child porn or something, I beg run. Because they'll do it for your child. I mean, it's not rocket science. In life, nobody can risk-proof themselves 100%. But you want to know that you've risk-proofed yourself to the largest degree that you can. Thirdly, I tell people you shouldn't be a single parent and marry somebody that doesn't have any income. Actually, you shouldn't be anybody and marry anybody that doesn't have income.
Yeah.
Okay, whether you're male or female, because the person will drag you down. So I can't imagine that I'm looking for money to pay my children's school fees, and then I'm looking for money to give somebody to fuel his car. Or I'm looking for money to buy a car for somebody. It's a little bit of common sense. It will drag you down. Okay, I have talked to somebody before, and the person was getting divorced from her spouse, and one of the things she said to me is, she said, "Big sis, this man will never allow me to be great." I mean, it was the father of her children. And I asked her what was going on, and she said, "Look, he borrows money, and what he does is, while I'm sleeping, he'll pick my phone and borrow money, use my fingerprint, unlock the phone, borrow money from a loan app, delete all the messages by morning. She's none the wiser for it. She's in business. One day her business capital is increasing, and then she gets debited." And she was like, so I tell people that money and love, it's a conversation you have to have, because you'll be living with this person. You know, so the big word here is, do you trust this person with your life? Do you trust that the decisions this person would take, would be for your own good? You know, and I think that especially if you're a mother, you can't be too careful with these conversations. Okay? So maybe in our culture, in the Nigerian culture, a lot of single mothers aren't remarrying. I agree. But then I also think that, honestly, it's a sacrifice that is worth making.
Wow.
Personally, I think so. I don't think you must marry. I think that if the family you are, which is you and your child, cannot join with another person and be one single family, if something has to go between me being a mother and me being a wife, me being a wife will go. Me being a wife will go. Because I would want anyone who would meet me in future to know that if you are getting me, you're getting a package deal. A package deal, because my children are delightful. I think my children are delightful. They're going to love you. They're going to respect you. They're going to honor you and all of that. And I don't see why any human who has a reason to love more people should love less.
Right.
But again, it's one of my opinions.
Yes, having said that, one of the most pertinent questions when it comes to single mothers who are yet to marry or remarry is, how do you satisfy your emotional and sexual needs?
Desires. I don't know.
All right.
That question has evolved over the years for me. Okay. As a younger mother, as a younger woman, having just gotten separated and divorced, everyone said, "Oh, no, you have sexual desires that have to be handled. There needs to be somebody who scratches the itch. Maybe not somebody who lives with you, but somebody who lives away and who you can do that to." And I was like, okay, the solution works and all of that. Then I got older and I started asking myself, do you really want to have a fountain of supply somewhere that doesn't supply everything in your life? Personally, and my personal answer was no, it's not necessary for me as a person. Okay, so I started telling myself, look, you're either with somebody or you're not. I think that conversation is another reason why women end up settling into situationships.
Yeah.
So I like to say that you can. Okay, my sister had once wrote something behind her book. I really don't know where she got it from, but that's become one of my favorite things. She says, learn to say no to the good so that you can say yes to the best.
Wow.
At this point in my life, I'm 46, I'm single, I'm celibate, and it works for me. Okay, I'm not going to give my solutions to a 29-year-old girl who has just gone through this. I think she needs to find her way. I think she needs to decide what works for her and what doesn't. Okay, but I think I've come to the stage in my life that I don't want my life to be several circles. I want my life to be one unified circle.
Right.
It's either that or, there's also the fact that that there's no age range to getting married. Okay? And thankfully, we're living in a time that the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So who says that if you can't marry a Nigerian while you're in your 30s because he doesn't want to bear extra responsibility, you can't marry a South African in your 40s who grew up in a system that he has been looking for a family and is just excited to have a family? What am I saying? There's a life for everyone. I think that's what I'm
Why
saying.
did you pick South Africa?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Okay, an Arab. We can go all the way down.
Right.
We can go into another race, right? But I think that what I'm saying is that, as one of my childhood songs used to say in Hausa, Dunia Kaswani, the world is a marketplace. I think that in real sense, there's always somebody willing to sell what you're willing to buy.
Yeah.
So it's what you settle for. And I wish more single mothers would know that they have options. I wish more people would not be pushed by this whole narrative of you have to marry. If you don't marry, you've done, I think that a lot of things that are pushed around as narratives really don't have to. You can sit down and ask yourself, is this true? Is this always true? Is there an exception to this truth, before you decide what to do?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the thing is, I think it comes down to my sister's proverb, saying no to the good, that you'll say yes to the best. Chances are that if you meet somebody who is emotionally into you, they're going to be into you all the way. Because the person isn't going to want to be there emotionally, but say, okay, no, I like you emotionally, but I don't like your children.
Right.
Okay? If he's really into you, or then you also want to just make sure that, okay, the person isn't here for what they can get. Because somebody's okay, no, he's a single mother. Now, don't worry, she'll give you everything. And then you can tax her. Then you're young and you become a young sugar mother, sugar mommy. So get to know what you want, and do realize that in life, abstinence is a choice. And it's an option, and it's a valid option.
Let's go back to something we touched on a little earlier, which is custody.
Yeah.
For children, especially in the case of divorce. These days, I've heard a lot of stories where there is a separation and the mother wouldn't let the father have access to the child, not even to visit, not even to have a relationship. Why do you think that is happening most commonly now, and what dangers do that portend for the child?
For the child. So again, it's one of those things I need a backstory for.
Right.
I do remember talking to someone who saw her estranged spouse fondling with her son's genitals.
Wow.
Yeah, and for him it was normal. Yeah, for him it was like he fondles with his. There was nothing wrong with fondling with, like he was just, I don't know. So if that kind of person says, I don't want him to have access to a son, I think everyone would say that's fine. I think everyone would say that's fine. So again, I keep telling people, we don't know people's backstories, right? And I'm also going to say that for me as a person, in my perfect world, my child should have a relationship with their fathers. My children should have a relationship with their fathers.
Right.
In my perfect world. Why? Because I think that two parents who love you and don't stay together is better than one parent who loves you and is with you. Okay? By scale of preference, single parenting is good, but two parents who can co-parent, two single parents who can co-parent is better. And of course, two parents who can parent and be married is the best. In that order, right? Yeah. But then I've also seen, so like I said, if you're keeping custody because you're weaponizing your child, then of course you're wrong. But if you're getting sole custody because of your child's safety,
right,
then you're right. Also remember that there are people who have been accused of doing this and we don't know their backstories. So I keep telling people, if I don't know a backstory, I can't judge. Okay, but I do think that one of your responsibilities to your child, as much as you can, is to generate healthy community around your child.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a case by case thing.
Hmm.
You can't really say it's always this way.
Right.
But in
Right.
an ideal world, if they can have access to both parents, why not?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. As a single parent, being a mother, I know no one needs to teach you the nitty-gritties of how to care, because it's a motherly instinct, except for abnormal situations, right? Or except for cases where you are carried away by emotions and you're unable to pay attention to the needs of your kids. But the other role is discipline for a child. Discipline in different aspects of their lives, be a boy or a girl. And this is one of those really pivotal areas in life that could either make or mar a child. How do you, as a single mother, provide both care and complete discipline, right, for your child in a way that would not really break this child to pieces?
Yeah, so like I said, good cop, bad cop. Easier when there's a second parent. Not easy when there's just one person. With my son, if he did something and you locked him up, like, oh, okay, he misbehaves, and you're like, okay, I'm going to lock you up in the bathroom till you get a grip of yourself. As you walk out of that place, he's shouting, Mommy, I'm sorry, Mommy, I'll behave. And he will. With my daughter, as you're taking her to the bathroom, before you lock the bathroom, she has run out. Because
she's swifter.
You're not going to lock me up, okay?
Yeah.
So every child adapts to discipline differently.
Yes.
So I had to be able to find that what works for child A does not work for child B. I think that most African parents think about discipline as beating. You know, we think about discipline as corporal punishment and all of that. But I think discipline transcends that.
Yeah.
Okay, discipline for me is being able to lay the rules and being able to say these are the rules that have to be obeyed. And if these rules are not obeyed, there are consequences. And if these other rules are obeyed, there are rewards. So I had to have a reward system also. You know, whether you're positively or negatively rewarding. For instance, with my daughter, one of the things that I noticed worked very well for her reward system is she likes to make money. I don't know where she got it from. It's not me. I call her a natural hacker. She's going to walk into this place and she's going to wonder, how can I get out of this place with minimum? Like, it's the way her mind works.
Right.
You know, and I had to realize that if I don't nurture that thing positively, it will become a problem later. It can lead to crime.
Right.
So I had to find a way to say, okay, how do I make her more resourceful and more criminal?
Right.
Okay, and we found our way around it. So for instance, she had a reward system. There was a time that I would wake her up for school and every day she would cry and all of that. And I mean, I was cold and nothing worked. And then one day I said, okay, look, every day that you don't cry, that you wake up and you don't cry, I pay you 20 naira. And that worked.
Wow.
The crying stopped. Any day that you do your chores without complaining, we pay you this. And it worked. So till now, we still do a lot of positive reinforcement. There are things that show like, okay, so what happens if I sweep the... I'm like, no, that's your job. Everything is not monetizable.
She's looking for money in every sense.
I swear, she looks for money everywhere. So we're like, some things are not monetizable, but others are, you know. And from the things that are monetizable, you know, she gets her money and she's like, okay, I'll go and buy myself a pair of slippers. And that is my pair of slippers that I bought for myself. You know, so people look at Hannah and they're like, oh, your daughter is so put together. And I'm like, yes, she is, because we decided to use discipline more positively than negatively, you know, to be able to reinforce her strengths. I mean, at a point, she hated reading a book. So I started saying, okay, every day that you don't read, we minus 15 naira. So the money you're gathering, you know, that kind of sometimes it's follow through. Sometimes I don't follow through as perfectly as I would.
Yeah.
But I think that creativity with parenting has been able to help me to do discipline also. Does that mean that we don't have... Oh, but we have our bad moments. We do have moments when there has to be corporal punishment. Thankfully, they're few and far between.
Right.
Also because I wasn't raised by parents that believed in pain as punishment. I can only remember 2 instances where my father laid his hands on me.
Hmm.
Yeah, only 2. And my mother is the sort that will stone you with a slipper.
Mothers and slippers.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So maybe my mom a few more times, but my father wasn't a corporal punishment person.
Mhm.
So I've learned that I am not either, but I'm able to enforce these other things. It's funny that at a point in my daughter's school, the worst thing you could tell her is, I will tell your mother.
Right.
Yeah, because she knew that she learned to know I could change it for her. Let me use the slang. That I could be the huggy, feely mother one moment, and the next moment when she needed discipline, I was also going to be the person. Again, that's why I said everyone has to be a single mother. I mean, a single parent, because you do everything. You're not going to sit down. I wouldn't always sit down and say, there are times that I would involve my older brother in the discipline.
Mm.
When it's really serious, I'll be like, look, we're going to my elder brother's house because somebody else needs to do this, that kind of thing. But most of the time, no, I'm firm enough to do it myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As a single parent, you would do everything, whether you are in the mood or not.
Yeah.
Whether you are sick or not. Right.
No
so
off days.
there are no off days. Right.
Mm.
Which makes it very challenging for you
Mm.
physically and emotionally too.
Yeah.
You have to provide. You have to go to a job. You have to do all of these things.
Mm.
So you get carried away by a lot of tasks that you have to achieve, and also parenting. And in some cases, if you are remarrying, being a wife, right, and trying to raise maybe another set of children. So all these things put together can make you absent in your mind, such that you cannot, or you sometimes might not pick up on some changes in your child, right? What are some of those signs and things that parents should never ignore when they see in their children?
So I think it's happened to me. It's happened to me a couple of times. First was COVID year, I think, and it didn't just happen to me. It happened to a number of parents that I knew because people were talking to me. In COVID year, when we all were forced to live with our children on a daily basis, realizing we didn't know these kids at all.
Nobody's going anywhere.
I said, one of the things I found out then, my daughter was around 7 then, was I realized she was picking things up, like she was stealing, and she was getting very creative about it. And it was one of those things that really shocked me.
Right.
I mean, because it's one of those things that I'm like, no, this is like an unthinkable in my space. But we had to learn how to handle it.
Yeah.
I had to get her to shadow me. At a point, that meant that anywhere I go to, it was cover and that kind of thing. Wherever I'm going to, you're following me. Whether I'm going to exercise or whatever it is. We had to even start subjecting her to spot checks. And we told her, we said, trust lost is not easily rebuilt. So everybody in the house was allowed to just go and randomly check her things. Ask her, oh yeah, give me your school bag. Do this, do that, And with character, anything to do with character means that you need to... So this is what I think, right, for parents. Your child can become anybody. Honestly, there are no guarantees. Because your child goes out of world into the society, there is corruption.
Yes.
Even if your child is at home with you 100% of the time, the world comes into your child. There's TV, there's the internet, there are phones, there are all of that. Now, I also know myself enough to know that I'm not a perfect parent.
Yeah.
Okay, I know myself enough to know that there are times I'm distracted. When I'm writing, I don't want to be disturbed. There are times I'm out of town and I'm just being an adult. I'm away from the children. I'm like, no children, I'm in Lagos. All right, it's time to go and do things that I wouldn't normally do, right? So there are all those things. And every time you're absent, it's an opportunity for a contagion to move across. So this is what I tell people. If you notice Because I don't think that there's such a thing as situational purity. I'm not one of those people that believes in it. I just believe that if you notice anything going on,
Yeah.
what you need to do is to address it immediately. Okay. And you don't ever take anything for granted. So what I tell the kids is this. I've had to come to God and say, God, I can't be there 100% of the time. If there's anything going on with these ones, please help me to know. Because if I don't know, I can't take care of it. But if I know, I can do something about it. That's also to say that your work as a parent is never done. You know, whether you're a single parent or you're a double parent. I was raised in a home where my parents were really into us. They were really there and all of that. And I ended up losing 2 brothers to substance abuse.
Wow.
You know, and one of those days, my son told me something. He gave me a Japanese term. I can't remember what it is. And he said, what parents don't realize is that there's a world going on in every child, in everybody, that you have no awareness, that nobody else knows. He said there's a world going on in every human that no other human is aware of. You know, so I tell people that that's also the truth with parenting. You can do the best with what you know. You can do the best with what you're given. But the other reason why you pray is because there are things that you're not going to know.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. You're called to be a parent, not to be God.
Yeah.
So that means that there are limitations to this whole thing. The only thing you want to know at the end of the day is that let it not be that when your parenting book is opened to you, you saw something and you didn't do anything about it. So I just tell people, whatever you see, handle it. That's my parenting mantra.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you raise a boy as a single mother versus how do you raise a girl as a single mother?
With a boy, you have an advantage.
Really?
Yeah. Sons love their moms. You can't do any wrong to your mother. Your mother doesn't do any wrong to your son. You know, sons have a way of looking at mothers. Just they really adore them. They love them. That kind of thing. Daughters, she's like your challenger. Yeah. You know, so I keep telling them that I was telling my daughter one day, and I was like, you're the only child that doesn't rate me in this job. So you're the only girl that doesn't rate me in this job. And like every other person calls me auntie, and they're like, oh, okay, I want to come to Auntie Pyemwa for advice. My daughter honestly doesn't see what the big deal is. She doesn't see what is it in this woman. I said, why are you people all over this woman? You know, so there's that. Oedipus complex, according to psychology. You know, with my son, I'm his first love as a woman. With my daughter, I'm something. Okay, so I think that's one basic difference.
Something when the needs arise.
Yeah. But I'm very disposable.
Yeah.
I'm very disposable to her. So with her, I try hard to be her friend. You know, more than with my son, because I don't know, my son implicitly trusted me more than she did. The other thing, I think, another difference, you know, with both of them is when it comes to sex education. And I think that most mothers just think that no, it's not for them to do this. You know, how are you going to talk to your son about sex and all of that? And people even think, okay, no, at a certain age, I shouldn't bathe my son. And I'm like, people, are you okay? Personally, I think that you should bathe your son until he's old enough to feel self-conscious. Because I think that he would want to have a degree of being comfortable with his body.
Right.
You know, same as your girl. So when it comes to those things, I believe the same thing. I believe in passing a lot of information as gist. You know, we don't have to sit down and open a textbook and do these discussions and all of that. The other thing I think that boys are more easily influenced by peer pressure than girls, generally.
Right.
Generally. So what I did with my son was that when he was starting to become a preteen and a teenager, I made his company come to him more than him to go to his company. I didn't want him out of the house picking up bad habits. I didn't want substance abuse. I mean, substance abuse has done a lot of havoc in my family. So when I saw that there were good boys around, I would invite them to the house. And they would all spend time in the house. And I'd be in my bedroom. And, you know, they had the house to themselves, basically. But it gave them a safe place, and they knew that there was no hostility. Psychology also says, and I read this a little while ago, and I was very intrigued, that at a certain age, your child doesn't listen to you. They listen more to other people, peer group members, other adults, but not you.
Mm.
So what that did to the boys who were coming to see my son was that they started trusting me as somebody they would listen to. So where they would not listen to their mothers, they would listen to me. Okay, so it was like a win-all for us because they were listening to me and they were in my son's circles.
Right.
So I just ended up becoming a mother to many people. Dynamics are different with my daughter. In her case, there was a point that she wanted to be with our relatives and spend time with my sister, my brother, and all of that. Right now, I have her more at home because I think that now that she's like in her adolescence, this is when I transmit the sense of womanhood to her. Okay, so those are some of the differences that I've had, parenting a girl and parenting a boy. And I'm not sure I can think. Okay, yeah, domestics. So people, I believe that every child should learn to be domestic. Every child should learn to cook. Cooking is a life skill, like we say in my house.
Both boy and girl.
Both boys and girls. I think everyone should be involved in the domestics. But it's funny that my daughter is more domestic than my son. And that's like a personality difference. Whereas he can go to the kitchen and make something for himself, she's actually interested in doing the cooking. So I'm like, which is funny because I don't like cooking. But we had a conversation last holiday. She was like, Mommy, I want to make pancakes. And I was like, no, we don't need to make pancakes. And she said, please, I want to try a recipe. And I said no. And then I went away and I told myself, I said, no, you were wrong to say no. And I called her back and I said, okay, I'm sorry. I said no. Whatever you want to experiment, go ahead and experiment. And when you're done, clean up by yourself. And she said, fine. Clean up after yourself. And she said, fine. And my nephew, my brother's son, is the one who is the kitchen person. I don't think that gender roles should be how we do these things. I think it should be more interest-based.
Yeah.
So
there's something we cannot talk enough about, but I want to just bring us back there.
Okay.
Which is raising a girl child, right? As a single mother. Everything could go wrong.
Yeah.
Right? How do you protect her from unhealthy male validation? Now, growing up without a present father.
Yeah, so for me, it started with my family, with giving her the same male role models that I had. I was lucky she had my father for 5 years. And so he did a great job with her for the initial years. He was really into her. He used to call her his little idol, But death took him away at 5 years. Life isn't ever fair, right? But other than that, my other male role model has been my elder brother. And so he's her male role model now. He doesn't live far away from us. And in addition to raising the children they have raised, they've also they seem to have a thing for picking. So his wife has a sister who is a single mom too, and her children, had 2 daughters, grew up with them. So when my daughter started moving that way, I just told him, I said, I see what you're doing. You're about to pick another one, but it gives her a role model, an active and present role model. Then there's her brother, who, like I said, has a 10-year age gap with her. So he's almost a young uncle compared to her. There are other males in my family, including my nephew, So for us as a family, it's helped us to have a family culture. They are my sisters. My sisters are married to good men too. And the men have been able to also be there for my daughter. And so again, I think that is a start for us. That's a place we started from. I've also talked about, just knowing that you can see pastor and all of that.
Right.
But I think the second thing, when you talk about everything going wrong for girls, especially with the amount of sexual abuse that is all over this space now, I think for me, I've also told myself not to ignore this thing, to know that this thing is there and this thing can happen.
Yeah.
So it's not enough to say, oh, okay, in Jesus' name, this is not going to. No, 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 no. You need to be able to mitigate against it. One of the things I've done is to talk with her. I remember us having a conversation the other day, and we said, look, come and sit down and tell us who are the males in your life.
Right.
Once in a while, I ask her those questions. Who are your top 3 males? Who are your closest cousins? Who are the girls that are older than you that you want to be like, and all of that, So we established again the need that these are people that are tried and trusted in our circle, and these are people that we think she can be with, because we're also looking at track records. So there's that. Then I'm also, like I said, I'm big on sex education. I'm big on saying it as it is. I think that there's something that happens to children when nobody says it. The education you're not willing to give your child, somebody's offering it to them on the outside. So you want to be able to be the voice that they have first heard on this thing, because you're going to be the voice that they trust. So that's another thing that we actively do. Another thing I'm learning to do, and I wanted to talk about it, is also being able to watch your child's media. My son had a phone at 12, so I did the same for my daughter. And then one of those days, I ended up snatching her own phone back, because I realized that she was spending a lot of time on it. And there isn't much you can monitor if your child has TikTok.
Right.
Yeah, And but there are other things that you can do. For instance, I'm not sure many parents even still know that you can set the settings of your child on Google, allow you to be able to see the apps that they install, allow you to be able to control the amount of time they are online, and so on and so forth before they are 13. The accesses increase after they are 13, but they don't get full access to a lot of things. So I learned to use Google as my friend, to be able to give her, time settings on her phone, so that she doesn't have unlimited access and so on. And we got to the point that I think sometime last vacation that I had to collect the phone back, and I was like, no, I don't think you're ready for this yet. So what we're going to do is, during the weekdays, we keep the phone off you, and I give it to you for, I think, 2 hours on Saturday and maybe an hour on Sunday or something, or 2 hours on Sunday. And because we've established trust, she was fine with it. So now she hands over the phone when she's supposed to. It doesn't mean that everything on her phone is what I want it to be. It just means that I'm able to have a degree of control, right?
Yeah.
Because the child that has 20 hours of access and the child that has 2 hours of access, even by the laws of just physics, yes, there's less traffic on one than on the other. Then things like watching TV. I'm a writer, and it's funny that I'm a script writer, so I write for TV, but I am not a TV watcher. Okay, and my daughter is the movie sort of person. And then one of those days, I was in church, and I think it was a Mother's Sunday, and the mother that preached said, as much as you can, watch what your children are watching on TV. And I remember going back home and saying I'd start doing that. So the other day she was watching something, and I decided, well, even if I'm not watching, I'm going to be in the parlor. It's loud enough so I can hear what she's watching. And then I started hearing stuff, and it was a comedy. It was like a young adults, teenage girls comedy. And it was supposedly harmless.
Right.
Till I heard some of the things they were saying, and I said, I now said, why are you watching this? Initially, I said, why are you watching this? And she said, oh, it's just entertainment. And I said, it doesn't feel like just entertainment to me. And she kept walking, and then I heard something, and I was so struck. I need to say what I saw, what I heard. So a girl comes to another girl's house, and the girl is in the bathroom, and she comes with a boyfriend. And then the other girl peeps inside and says, why are you in the shower with the shower head under your doing? I mean, I was like, and then the girl says, how would you say this in front of the boy? And then when she comes out, the boy says, are you ashamed because you were masturbating? Don't worry, I do it too.
Wow.
Oh yes, and this is like an innocent comedy, innocent. And I just told her, I said, switch that thing off. I was like, they were not just telling you that this was okay, they were teaching you what to do. And I was like, no, we're not doing this, So she said okay, and then she changed it, and I said okay. So from now on, whatever we watch needs to be what we can all watch.
Yeah.
And those are small ways that. Now they're all the things I have taught her about sex and sex education. This is how watching something on TV, and this is them deliberately telling her what you didn't say. So these are the ways that I think you can watch over girls. We don't do music, we don't do MTV in our house, we don't do music videos. Because I'm not going to see, my daughter isn't going to see one man sitting down with his whole clothes and then 10 girls are twerking and they are all surrounding him. That's not the image of femininity that I even want her to see. I don't want her thinking that her work as a woman is to use her body to make men glad, you know. So it's all I keep saying, have conversations early, don't stop. Just keep going at these things, and so that at every point in time, let your voice be the voice that challenges them in the head.
Yeah.
The vulnerability is real. But if you teach her early, and if she gets a sense of identity early, you can mitigate some things.
Yeah. To become a better parent, you had to confront some anger in your life, possibly. Hurt and stuff. What are some of those, and how do other single mothers, single fathers overcome their point of hurt so that they can concentrate and be the parents that their child needs?
Exactly. Funny, I think that the biggest thing you confront isn't anger or hurt. I think it's shame. Yeah, I think that everyone has a sense of shame. Shame is the emotion you have when you think you made bad decisions. And I keep telling people that there's nothing that harms you as much as shame does, because shame is what makes you want to hide. Shame is what society tells single mothers that you're supposed to have. You're supposed to be ashamed of yourself. You couldn't make a marriage work. If you couldn't make a marriage work, there's no way you're going to be able to raise a child and all of that. So there's the hurt from, somebody hurt you, or the anger, But this is what I learned. The first thing I learned was to forgive myself. And this came, in the months leading up to my divorce, while things were really going bad, between me and my ex. And I remember one of those days I sat down and I told myself, I said, it's been your fault. You did this, you did that. You caused this to happen. And I got to the point that after I had said everything, I heard a voice inside my heart. I heard a voice telling me, forgive yourself. And I decided to.
Right.
I decided I was worthy of forgiving myself. And then the next thing was, another time we were having a fight over something, and I was driving off to work, and the same voice told me, forgive him. And I said, I'll forgive him. And the voice said, Pyemwa, forgive him. And I knew that if I heard it 2 times, I needed to listen again. So I said, okay. And it was one of those times I was having this kind of internal conversation, and he said, look, if you don't forgive now and you keep letting things pile up, you're not going to be able to, it will overwhelm you. The amount of forgiveness you're going to need will overwhelm you. So I learned first to forgive me, then I learned to forgive him, and to forgive every other person. And that helped me, because when my daughter came about, I had every reason to feel ashamed. I felt ashamed of myself for letting myself get dragged into that relationship, and, for everything, and one of those days, having gone through the forgiving myself and forgiving him thing, one of those days I was driving and I was just thinking about how much joy my children were giving me. And I said, if I didn't have these shitty relationships, I wouldn't have these children. And it was one of those moments I knew something had shifted inside. And I remember praying and saying, so God, I know these men don't have the joy that I have, but if there's any way you can give them a little bit of joy, I feel so generous, I'm willing to share.
Right.
And
the end justifies the means in this case, right?
well, the end is a good ending. I don't know if it
Yeah.
justifies. I mean, because it's a journey.
Because I think God writes himself in our stories.
He does.
Even
does.
when we
Absolutely.
mess up, he
writes
is
it in
still
there.
within there, yeah.
I mean, and I tell people there, you do pay the price. There's a reckoning.
Yeah.
There's always a reckoning.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, okay, I have a baby one day and then the next day I'm praying joy. No. there are all the things I went through. There are the things I went through that I don't talk about, you know,
Right.
the feeling of shame, the isolation, the guilt, there's all of that, you know, the back talk, hearing people say things and all of that. It's all part of the package, you know, but one day you're able to isolate all of it and you're able to look at what you have, what's left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have 2 really amazing children. And I'm like, how could I not be grateful? You know, so I just felt, so one of those times I felt really good. And I remember saying, I remember also knowing that if I hadn't prayed for forgiveness, if I hadn't forgiven myself, if I hadn't forgiven him or them, you know, I wouldn't have been where I was. You know, so yeah.
The point of forgiving yourself cannot be overemphasized.
Absolutely.
It's really something we often do not do.
Yeah.
And I like your point about shame. Come to think of it, shame is sort of what leads people to even commit suicide.
Everything.
Because almost everything, even that guilt we talk about, it's so that people don't find out that this is what I've done, you know, when you could actually heal if you don't really put so much thought to how people are going
to look at you.
Right.
When I found out I was pregnant for my daughter and I accepted to keep the pregnant, I remember I was driving and I started thinking about David and Bathsheba's story.
Yeah.
And I said sometimes the pain you cause from cover-up is worse than the pain from repentance.
Yes.
You know, and at that moment when I decided I was going to keep her, the first thing I did was I went to talk to people I went to my elder brother's house that evening. First point of call was my elder brother. Because in a lot of ways, he has been my moral compass. He's a lot older than me. He's maybe 11, 13 years old. I can't remember. But he's been my moral compass for a lot of life, you know. But I also knew that he was one person who wouldn't condemn me. I knew he would look at me and tell me, look, you didn't get this right. But he was also going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, and after him, the next person I went to was my pastor. And I had the same conversation. And then my parents, in that order.
Yeah.
You know, and I was doing it in that order because once I held myself accountable to one person, you know, that I knew would accept me in spite of what I had been, then every other person was going to be a little bit easier. Probably the hardest was talking to my parents because, I mean, my parents raised me better and expected more from me. But that thing that shame does, and, you know, for me, maybe it's why I keep talking about my experiences. It's why I don't mind talking on podcasts and so on and so forth. Because if you've been healed from something, you know, you're able to, if you've moved through the darkness, you're able to hold out a candle.
Yes.
My favorite story is Jesus and the Samaritan woman. And the Bible says after he talked to her, she ran back into the city and said, come and see a man that told me everything that I've done, you know. And and one day I paused by that story and said, wait, everything she had done wasn't good. She had been with 7 men.
Yes.
She was with a living lover at this point. And she was like, come and meet somebody who told me everything. That's something that should make her ashamed. That's something that she should be running away from, not something that she should be telling. But I think that's a true power of being healed. The true power of being healed is that you're able to talk about the things that you would rather have covered up.
Where do you think people are getting it wrong when they're providing counsel for single parents?
Generally, I think that if there's a law that should apply to every counseling, it should be the law of empathy.
The law of empathy.
Yeah. I think I heard Michelle Obama say empathy is just putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Okay, and I think that's what's lost. Now, in churches, even churches that sort of intervened in my divorce matter, for instance, the one thing they're not good at is saying the same thing they said to Vo. The thing that they said to Vo, they'll not be able to say to Susan, who is their daughter.
Right.
Yeah. Because if it doesn't come home, close home, it doesn't hit. So I know institutions that will not permit divorce. But when their daughters are getting married, they'll tell their sons-in-law, if you ever touch my daughter, I will carry her. So why are you not saying the same thing to another girl? Okay, why are you not, when you are coming to pick a bride, why are you not saying it and say, look, in our church, if you touch this girl, we will come for you.
Right.
Why is it okay to say it to the daughter, but not to say it to somebody else's child?
Right.
So I feel that the first place where we've lost it is the empathy question. The empathy question is not a question that everyone is equipped to answer. And, so maybe the second thing would be inclusion. Inclusion means you should be able to have broken people talk about their own brokenness. You don't want to be the one that is judging on behalf of everybody. Everyone can sit on his high horse and say a lot of things if you have not faced it. Okay, so if you're broken, if you have been through a thing, your experience is different. Okay, you and I were talking about toothaches. And think about somebody who has had perfect dentition.
Right.
And I tell the person, I have to spend 10 million on my teeth. The person is going to say, you're wasting money. You and I that have had dental issues know that on the day that we have dental issues, it does not allow us to sleep.
No be beans.
Exactly. And when they say 10 million and you are in pain and you have 10 million, you'll go and do it immediately. So I think that, there should be inclusion in the sense of if a person is broken, let them be the ones that talk to you about brokenness. So maybe the third thing that institutions are missing is teachability. Teachability just means being able to say, okay, I haven't gone through this. How does this feel like?
Yeah.
So that before you're judging somebody else for what you have never faced, talk to somebody who has actually faced it.
Right.
Let the person talk to you about the isolation. Before you decide that, oh, okay, that single mother is being promiscuous because she has one boyfriend here today, she has one boyfriend tomorrow. Ask her, what is your dating experience? Because there's something she will tell you and you'll be like, no, I was judgmental. I was too fast to say this. Then I think the other thing is we're not listening. Listening is a lost art. Everybody comes and they want to tell you the solution. They have the solution. They want to be the ones that fix the problem. They want to be the ones that solve the problem. So they don't want to listen. I mean, when I was talking about, earlier I talked about my son, raising him and other children. And, the other boys that would come to the house. And the other day they were in the house and there are three other boys, right? All of them grew up in single mother homes. And we were looking at the 5 of them. And all 5 of them have all graduated from the university at this point. They've all stayed on the path. There are no substance abuse things happening. There's none of that. And I was trying to talk about their common experience. And I remember somebody saying, oh, this is the grace of God. It's not for you to boast. They are just like this because of grace. And I said, yes, and thank you for telling me about grace. But it's also because there were principles that we put into place.
Yeah.
The grace doesn't work on nothing. The grace works on something. So again, I think that there are people want to hold on to the things they believe and they're not willing to, let go of it. Then, of course, I also think that the other thing we're getting wrong is culture. And culture doesn't mean going to the village or something. For me, culture is just the prevailing thought that leads on the prevailing way of life, and that we're all cultural. So somebody woke up one day and said, oh, children of single mothers become drug addicts and you become not successful and all of that. And culture means you absorbed it.
Stereotypes.
Yeah, you stereotyped. Culture means you didn't tell yourself Barack Obama is the child of a single mother. Culture means you didn't tell yourself of all these other people. Culture means you say, oh, okay, no. A child does not succeed well without the blessings of a father. Culture doesn't let you know that Timothy in the Bible was only defined by his maternal lineage, not his paternal lineage.
Right.
Paul says, the faith you have taken from your mother Lois and your grandmother Eunice, I'd be the other way around, but those are the two women, right? And one day I looked at that and I said, come on, nothing is said about Timothy's father. So that's culture, and I tell people that there's what I call prevailing African culture, where we take African culture and we try to wrap it up with a little bit of the Bible, and we say, oh, no. When you go the patriarchs of faith, only blessed. Then I'm like, okay, but there's somebody that has been raised by a mother.
Yeah.
And
even Jesus.
His
father was really
we didn't hear about his father after.
Yeah.
After his birth, after they are coming back, we didn't hear about the father anymore.
Yeah.
So you start seeing these things that you hadn't seen, right? So I think that there's, for me, and again, that's why I say I'm a liberal. I'm a liberal because for me, every information you have should be subject to questioning. Questioning is never a bad thing. Questioning just means you're looking at something and you're saying, is this absolute? Okay, are there exceptions? If there are exceptions, what was the exception? What caused the exception? Is there something to be learned from this? So I'm big on everything getting questioned. And I think that if we could get those things right, empathy, inclusion, listening, the other things, we would do better, with even being able to advise single parents. And then honestly, don't advise people who don't ask you for it.
Yeah.
Because nobody told you you're superior to them.
True.
I mean, I'm at the stage in my life that if I talk about parenting, people like you invite me. 10 years ago, when I was untested, when my son was 11, I wouldn't be invited here. Okay? I'm only invited now because the results are starting to show.
Yeah, you have some credibility.
I have some credibility. So I think that, if we lost the judgmental thing a little, we'll be able to tell ourselves, there go I, but for the grace of God, because every single one of us, and I keep saying this thing, there's nobody who got marriage right because you ticked all the boxes. Nobody. There's nobody. Everybody got here because after you ticked the boxes, God helped you that the boxes that you did not tick did not turn out to be major ones.
Right.
Or didn't turn out to be major issues, right?
Right.
So we're all what we are because by the grace of God. So a little bit less judgment also.
Yes. As a single parent, what do you do when you see your child trying to repeat the same mistakes you made? Especially with relationships.
Okay. So far they haven't.
Right. And I pray they don't.
So far they haven't. But I think there's something. But
have you put a thought to that though?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I told my son, and I guess I should say to my daughter too, that I am a stakeholder in their relationships. I believe in helicopter parenting when it comes to
I like that.
It's actually a term. It's a term for parents that are too protective and hover around their children all the time. My father was the sort of person who would allow men to come and see us in the house, and he'll stay and gist with them, and everyone will be like, "Oh, your dad is so nice," and I'll be like, "You people have no idea," because when you've left, then he'll sit down and be like, "I noticed X, Y, Z about this person." I think you should note that. I think you should note that. That sort of thing, right? When I got married, I wasn't living at home anymore. So I kind of just brought a man, which is why he escaped my father's mesh of seeing things very closely. So my niece, I have an older niece that stays with me and all of that. We x-ray her relationships together.
Right.
It's not for me to come and say, I don't like this person. It's for me to say, oh, the other day when this person was here, I noticed he punched you on the arm. And she's like, really, he did? And I'm like, yes. And I would like to know where he lies with hitting, lest you get hit tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because you didn't see it, but I do. I'm an older woman. So they're just things that don't pass my notice. And she's like, no, I don't think he's like this. And I'm like, okay, can you give it a little while? Look at this person more closely. Okay? Or just being able to... So for me, I'm like, if you guys trust me, if I've done anything right, then you trust me. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
if I've done
sure.
anything right to you, then I hope you trust me on your relationship matters. That the other day, somebody was like, oh, okay, I can't date XYZ. And I said, why? And she said, he's a civil servant. And I said, what's wrong with a civil servant? And she said, auntie, can I date a civil servant? And I'm like, why not? And she's like, okay, she kind of thought I was going to say go for somebody rich. I said, number one, he has a job. I said, I've always told you don't date idle, don't date broke, but I've not told you don't date somebody because you're looking down on his job. And then I started pointing out civil servants that were doing well. And I said, no, I don't want you, that's shallow thinking. I do want you thinking about finances, but I don't want you thinking about finances like that. I want you to be able to say, what is this person's work ethic? What is his saving ethic? Is he doing bets Niger? Is he gambling away his money and all of that? That sort of thing. So for me, mitigating against my decisions is something that I want to think I've started already. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was telling me the same thing about her daughter. She's even in a marriage. She said the girl was dating a guy, and she looked at the guy and she remembered an ex-boyfriend she had. And she called and said, look, you're an adult. We're not going to tell you this is who to date or this is who not to date. But I've noticed XYZ about this person. Have you noticed? And most times, people know what's wrong. People in a relationship know what's wrong. They don't need you to tell them. They just need... But sometimes they've seen it and it flew over their heads.
Right.
But somebody just says, have you looked at this? And they're like, oh, okay. Oh, that was the real thing, So, again, it's to keep conversations open.
Yeah.
And like I keep saying, to be able to start conversations early. So, taking you back to the fact I started talking to my son when he was 4 was because since when he was 4, if he can trust me at 4, he can trust me at 25. When he's about to get married at 27 or at 30.
Yes.
He will be able to say, oh, okay, no. Momsi has talked to me over the years and she has a track record. So she wouldn't be entirely wrong on this. But then also allowing them to have agency. There are some people that don't learn except they have experiences.
Yeah. It's beautiful you say that. My experience that has formed a particular philosophy is that I tried several relationships on my own without introducing my parents into it because I was always schooling either abroad or moving. So I was not at home mostly during my university days, and those were the times I was actually actively dating. But it was trying and failing until I broke up with this ex of mine who it was 1 month to our wedding we broke up, so it was a very painful story. And I learned something, and one of the things I learned quickly is that I had to involve my parents in everything from day one. I learned it, and I can't really overemphasize how it helps, because I had to sit down and ask myself a question: who loves me the most? These are people who conceived me, took care of me, went through the hurdles of raising me, right? Borrowed, did everything they can to make me who I am. So why is it that when I'm about to make one of the most important decisions of my life, I shut them off, And when I involved them, in my case, everything worked out better than, I had thought, So I just entrusted it to them. I said, I'll follow
I'll
you.
use this to emotionally blackmail my children.
You should. I mean, it worked.
Yeah,
It worked
yeah,
for
yeah,
me
yeah,
at
yeah,
least.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think if you have parents that you can trust, I do agree. All parents aren't good parents.
Yeah.
Sadly,
Yeah.
all parents aren't good parents. Parents are selfish. Their parents are selfish. Their parents are manipulative. Their parents are
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah.
So it's not always a blanket thing. But honestly, if you have good parents, use them. If you have good parents, use them.
I like that. Use them.
Yeah, use them. Use them.
Right.
I'm learning. I'm also. I think the other risk of being a single parent, especially if you're a single mother to a boy, is that you have the power to attach that to tie your son to your waist.
Right.
You have that power.
Right.
Forget what anybody
Right.
says.
Right.
And I always knew I had that power, but I also told myself it was not something I was going to do. I remember a friend telling me about a guy who works in one of these top banks in Nigeria and has a very highly placed role, and currently he should be in his 40s or closer 50, and he's not married. And every weekend he's on his way out of Lagos to go and stay with his mother.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember hearing that story and feeling absolutely horrified.
Right.
And I just told myself, I said, Lord, let it never be me. Let it never be me. Let me untie this child from let us cut this umbilical cord anyhow, So
Yeah.
there's always that, but there's a temptation to want to play God, especially because you know that your child implicitly trusts you, but to be a good mom, and
yes,
not just to be a good mom, but because, like I keep telling my son, there's nothing that says that tomorrow I may not remarry. There's nothing that says it may not be on the cards, but it may not be on the cards, but it's not out of the cards either.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you one final question.
Yes.
If you will.
Hooray.
Yeah, it's been a masterclass of a conversation. A lot of people in their marriages right now are at crossroads, right? And some might be watching and listening. At what point do you absolutely think it is okay for a man or a woman to walk away from a marriage union that is not serving any good purpose?
Okay. So for me, I would say that, one, if you're in a difficult marriage but you guys are working on it, then it's worth the fight.
Right.
Okay. You're fighting every day, but you guys are still working on it. You're still engaged. It's worth the fight. When do you know that you're not engaged anymore? Now there's no fighting. People stay in different rooms. People live very different existences. Then you know that, as the courts will call it, is irretrievably broken. And some people actually live in that. So for me as a person, if your emotional well-being is important to you, and you know that you guys have gotten to the point that you're just coexisting, and there's a lot of acrimony, or there's a lot of indifference, then it may be a good point. Secondly, I think that you should think about how much harm is it causing. Is it causing harm to you? Is your life at risk?
Right.
Is your life at risk? Is the life of your child at risk? If there is a threat to life or there is harm, then that should be a good place for you to go. However, I also understand that a lot of people who want to go can't go because they're not economically empowered.
Right.
So again, that's where the conversation on empowerment comes to. I don't understand women who are completely reliant on a man, even if he's a good man. Because life can always happen to you. I always think, for the sake of security, that you need to have your hands giving you something. Whether it's a business, whether you're working from home. Thank God there are all kinds of options now. Because a lot of people who stay in things because they are trapped. So you don't want to be trapped, So for me, those would be the absolutes. The absolutes will be threats to life, and it would be, a complete meltdown and a complete absence of what's going on. I honestly think that single parent homes are healthier than children growing up in homes where there's acrimony.
Right.
There's less
tension.
There's less. I can't see my son getting married tomorrow and treating his wife poorly because he never saw anyone treat me poorly.
Right.
He was 4 when we scattered, right? So he doesn't have a context for behavior that he has seen. Does that make any sense?
Right.
As far as it's concerned, his mother, I also can't see him marrying a woman tomorrow that is absolutely dependent, because his concept of femininity has been defined by me.
Yeah.
It's been defined by, I have a mother who is hands-on into life. I have a mother who doesn't beg. I have that kind of thing. And there's no way he's going to get a wife. Today she wants 20K, tomorrow she wants this, and she doesn't want to do anything, and she wants to just do her nails. And no, because that's not what he has seen. So what would I advocate for? I would advocate that it's the adult's responsibility to make the home a healthy home. Honestly, it doesn't matter whether you're married or you're single or whatnot. Decide, because that's within your circle of control.
Yes.
And your circle of influence. Decide that your home is going to be a healthy place, so that the inhabitants of your home can really just enjoy living in your home and in whatever it is that you've created.
Right.
Thank you.
Auntie Pyemwa Samanta Deshi, thank you so much for this life-breathing, life-giving opportunity. You're a life giver. You influence a lot of people, whether you know it or you don't. And this conversation is very prime. It's very relevant to the world today. And so many people are going through a lot of pivotal moments in their lives, struggling to raise children, struggling with understanding what is right versus what is wrong. So your experience, your knowledge, and your very simple way of explaining things, breathes so much light to these issues. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking
Thank
with
you
us.
for having me.